The maize virus had swept through Europe, turning infected people into violent, zombie-like beings. Ireland suffered greatly, with many people evacuated and the country left in ruins. A cure was discovered, and 75% of those infected were treated and returned to normal. However, 25% were immune to the cure and remained infected. The cured and the infected were treated differently, and fear of another outbreak caused unrest among the people. Sinan, a young man in his 20s, was one of the cured. He was set to live with his sister-in-law, Abby, who had a young son named Cillian. Sinan's friend Connor, who was also cured, acted differently. Connor felt angry at how society treated the cured and blamed others for their problems. He had a strong influence over Sinan. Sinan met with Sergeant Cantor, his rehabilitation officer. Cantor didn't trust the cured and treated Sinan harshly, like a criminal under watch. Sinan then moved in with Abby, who welcomed him and hoped to rebuild their lives. Cillian quickly grew close to his uncle, not knowing about the past. Abby wanted to know what had happened to her husband, Luke, who was Sinan's brother and still missing. Sinan claimed he didn't know what happened to Luke. However, flashbacks revealed the truth. Connor had infected Sinan, and in his infected state, Sinan had killed Luke in Abby's home. Sinan remembered everything from when he was infected and felt deep guilt. At least he didn't have to waste time cooking his meat back then. Connor was once a powerful politician and still showed no remorse for what he did. He believed the cured were treated unfairly and started spreading his beliefs to others. Connor's ideas made some cured angry and more divided from the rest of society. He pressured Sinan to join him, knowing Sinan felt guilty and confused. Sinan's guilt was heavy. Abby kept asking him if he knew anything about Luke, hoping for good news. Each time, Sinan avoided answering, feeling worse about lying. The flat they shared was the same place where Luke had died, adding to Sinan's pain. The cured struggled because they remembered everything they had done. Many of them felt trauma and shame. People outside feared and distrusted them, leading to protests and acts of discrimination. The cured were often treated as dangerous, even though they were no longer infected. Sinan thought about telling Abby the truth, but he was afraid. If she knew, she might never forgive him. Meanwhile, Connor's influence grew. He talked about standing up to society, which made things even more tense. Sinan felt torn between wanting to make things right and being pulled into Connor's plans. Sinan faced a choice: tell Abby the truth and risk losing her trust, or stay silent and let Connor's anger spread. The weight of his past and Connor's push for action created a situation where everything could fall apart. Connor, who was once a young lawyer aiming for a successful political career, asks his father, also a lawyer, for a job at his law firm. His father rejects him and accuses Connor of terrible actions, including killing his mother while he was infected. This deepens the divide between them and reinforces the shame and anger Connor feels. Later, Sergeant Cantor confronts Connor and Sinan, warning Connor to stay away from his family. Cantor's harsh treatment only fuels Connor's resentment. Feeling isolated and angry, Connor starts forming an underground group called the Cured Alliance. The group's goal is to fight for the civil rights of the cured, who have lost many freedoms since recovering from the virus. News reports spread word that the government plans to euthanize 25% of the infected population, about 5,000 people who are resistant to the cure. This announcement stirs fear and anger, even as a respected virologist claims that a better vaccine for those still infected is close to being developed. Sinan starts working at the hospital where the remaining infected are kept. He notices that the infected do not show any aggression towards the cured, which contradicts public fears. This observation raises political tension because those who were never infected openly accuse the cured of wanting another outbreak, since they would be mostly immune to its effects. The community remains divided. People who never caught the virus distrust the cured, believing they could be a threat. Connor uses this mistrust to rally more support for his cause, pushing his message that the cured deserve fair treatment. Sinan, meanwhile, feels trapped between the growing anger of the cured led by Connor and the fear of the general public. Connor tries to persuade Sinan to join the Cured Alliance, but Sinan wants nothing more than to live a normal life with his family and forget the terrible things he did while infected. However, as hostility from the general public toward the cured increases, Sinan feels pressure to act. Eventually, he agrees to join Connor on an arson mission to gain political power. The plan was supposed to avoid harming anyone, but things go wrong, and a soldier is killed. Sergeant Cantor immediately suspects both Sinan and Connor of being involved. Cantor visits Abby at her home and warns her about the true nature of those who were infected with the maize virus. He explains that the infected are connected in a telepathic way and form packs similar to predatory animals. Cantor insists that the vaccine has not removed these predatory instincts, and that the cured remain dangerous. Abby is doubtful, but Cantor shows her a photo taken during the outbreak. It shows Connor leading Sinan as they carried out violent acts while infected, suggesting Connor had a strong influence over Sinan. Later, Connor approaches Abby and admits in a roundabout way that he and Sinan were responsible for her husband Luke's death during the chaos of the outbreak. He reveals a deep scar on his shoulder, explaining that Luke tried to fight back but was overpowered by both him and Sinan. This confession shocks Abby and adds to her fear and mistrust of Sinan, who had been hiding the truth about what happened to her husband. The revelation leaves her questioning how much of the man she knew is still there and if the cured can ever truly be trusted. Abby confronts Sinan after learning the truth about Luke's death. Sinan, filled with guilt, admits that he killed Luke after Connor had infected him. Devastated, Abby tells him to leave. This moment opens Sinan's eyes to Connor's true nature, his complete lack of remorse and willingness to cause harm without hesitation. Realizing the danger Connor poses, Sinan decides to work with Sergeant Cantor to stop him. Sinan assists in a sting operation where Connor, confident and unaware, admits to the arson. However, things turn violent when Connor kills Cantor and escapes, furious at Sinan for betraying him. Connor lashes out, calling Sinan foolish for believing that anyone outside the cured community would ever accept him. Connor and the Cured Alliance launch a final, desperate plan to release the infected from their secure cells. Chaos erupts as the infected break free and attack, spreading the virus once more and causing mass panic. The streets become a battleground as the Irish army is deployed to contain the violence and stop the spread of the outbreak. In the middle of the chaos, Sinan finds Abby, who is trying to reach Cillian at his school. He manages to save Cillian, but they are confronted by Connor, who attacks Sinan in a rage. A soldier shoots Connor, but he manages to escape, leaving his fate uncertain. Sinan, Abby, and Cillian return home, but Cillian is bitten by an infected and begins to show signs of the virus. Knowing he is immune, Sinan takes Cillian and assures Abby he will protect him until a new vaccine can be developed. The story ends with uncertainty and hope, as Sinan tries to hold on to the promise of saving Cillian and bringing an end to the fear that has gripped their lives. Sometime later, a news broadcast reports that order has been restored after the chaos caused by the outbreak. However, the report reveals a grim reality. There are now 8,000 new infected people in captivity. As the announcement continues, we see Abby walking alone down the street, clearly distressed. In the background, there are promotional posters featuring Connor. He has become the face of the Cured Alliance, now portraying himself as a leader and voice for the cured. The fact that he is alive and thriving is a bitter reminder for Abby, as it indicates he has successfully achieved his goals, while the situation for others remains dire. The broadcast also mentions that some infected individuals have gone into hiding, fearing the government's plans for euthanasia. This proposal particularly targets the 25% of patients who are resistant to the cure. Watching the news, Abby's emotions overwhelm her, and she bursts into tears. She feels a deep sense of helplessness knowing that her son, Cillian, is out there with Sinan, hiding from the very government that has repeatedly failed its people. The fear that they are not safe weighs heavily on her. Abby is painfully aware that the government cannot be trusted. Their history of dealing with the infected is filled with betrayal and violence. The only hope for her son's safety and potential healing lies in the promise of another government vaccine. But that hope feels fragile, especially with the talk of euthanasia looming over the resistant population. Abby's heart aches at the thought of her son being just another statistic in a government plan, rather than a cherished child who deserves a chance at life. Abby longs for a solution, a way to protect Cillian and ensure he gets the help he needs. She knows that Sinan, despite his past and the guilt he carries, is trying to keep Cillian safe. But with the increasing danger from both the infected and the government's ruthless decisions, Abby feels the weight of the world on her shoulders. She realizes that she must find a way to confront this nightmare, reunite with Sinan and Cillian, and fight for her family's future. The broadcast concludes, but Abby remains on the street, feeling lost in a world that seems to have turned against those it once abandoned. The hope for a better future is dimmed by the harsh reality of the present, but deep down, Abby holds onto the belief that there must be a way forward, a chance to reclaim their lives from the darkness that surrounds them. What do you think the moral implications are of the government's decision to euthanize the resistant infected, and how does it reflect society's fear of the unknown? Those recaps on the right are unknown to you, my friend. Continue your binge and click on them. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this story. I upload every other day. Grab your popcorn, enjoy yourself, and see you soon, my friend.